and the two guests have just arrived, which is wonderful. I'd also like to welcome the pastor of the church just down, that's the Woodland Community Church. Just put your hand up if you're here. His name's Greg. I know they've done a lot of work. Laurie is speaking tonight. We've got the president of the group, John Walker. We've got Greg Peterson here. We've got terrific neighbours, and we're totally blown away by your response. So give yourself a cheers. Thank you very much. You certainly did.
We can't hear here.
You certainly have. Okay, you certainly have.
That's better, yeah, that's better.
Preparations for your holidays to come and attend this meeting, and it's because it's important. I want to thank St. Mel, because they really are a community church and they do believe in community service. This is sacred space, so we'll be letting everyone honour that. I have Father Joseph here, he's the associate pastor, and he would like to just bless our meeting tonight. It's very universal, so
I'll just be providing a quick blessing for these proceedings. Lord, may everything we do begin with your inspiration and continue with your help, so that all our prayers and works begin in you and by you will be happily ended. Glory and praise to you forever and ever. Amen. May the God of every grace and blessing grant you joy and peace this season. May you rejoice in God's protection now and forever. Amen.
we're gathering tonight to shed light on the absolute incompatibility of a development application that threatens the very fabric of our community. We learned about this development the day before Thanksgiving. Many in the community still don't know. I'm sure you realise that we're going into people. Ironically, it's the 100th anniversary of this historic Woodland Hills Country Club, our green space, and the thoughtfully designed Gerard track, which our houses surround. We live in a canyon. People often don't recognise it as that, but it is the canyon. And it's a space we love and cherish. And here we are during the holidays, presented with an application that is absolutely no gift. Furthermore, if you think about putting a present under the tree, well, I'm here to tell you the tree is gone. In fact, 110 beautiful established trees would be gone, along the sensitive environmental ecosystem adjacent to the Santa Monica Mountains. Fresh in our minds is all of in all of us is the Malibu, Altadena, and Palisades fire. The importance of fire safety and saving lives could not be more pertinent. Let's pause for about 15 seconds and think of all those that are lost. Now let's consider the existential threat of an extra 380 dwellings and 800 plus cars would pose to all of us if we needed to flee a wildfire. And yet, tonight, it's not just about what we stand to lose. It's It's about what we are willing to stand for. This room is filled with neighbours and a community who care deeply, who show up and who believe that protecting people, history and the environment is not opposition, it's stewardship. When community comes together with clarity, compassion and courage, it becomes a powerful force for good. It's therefore my great pleasure to introduce Elise Tyler. Someone who is not only recognised the power, but advanced it. Elise was mightily mobilised and has mightily mobilised and galvanised this community through her petition, which I'm sure all of you have signed, reminding us that when we act together, our voices matter. We have all become fast and furious friends in an effort which is true reflection of goodness in this community and the real beauty of Woodland Hills. We don't want to lose that. So I'm going to hand over now to Elise, and she's going to introduce the team. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you. Is this microphone a little bit better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey for you.
Zoom, can you guys hear us a little bit better? All right, Zoom's having a little bit of technical issue, but hopefully we can solve it. First of all, my name is Elise Tyler, as Michelle so graciously introduced. I live on Morrow Drive, right by the golf course, and I support housing. You know, I support affordable housing. I support safe, compliant, transparent housing. And simply, I do not believe that the proposed 4868 Canoga project is safe, compliant, or transparent.
You're here.
So we can go to the next slide. Just a second. So we have all been working, I think, together and separately to learn, especially the Canvas project, in a very, very quick amount of time. So we're just going to give you like kind of the top level of what we as a group have found, what we are concerned about, and some actions that we can all take. And then our wonderful Bob Blumenfield is going to have a word as well, who has so graciously already come out saying that he does not believe that it qualifies for a fast track. So thank you, Bob. Really quickly, this map shows the neighborhood surrounding the Woodland Hills Country Club property. It's predominantly single-family residents. You can see, there's a lot of winding streets. A lot of you probably live on them. We call them the spaghetti streets. It's a canyon, it's canyon conditions, and there are already some safety issues that have come up in this research about the roads as is, without adding anything. There's some things we need to address already. These are not wide urban grids or dense commercial blocks of streets. These are family neighborhoods. This is where we have all invested our lives. So we can go to the next slide. I just want you to see as well, I'm sure you already have, this is the proposed 4868 development. And as you can see on this slide, we have pointed where the exit and entrance, the singular exit and entrance for the development, which empties onto Canoga, 4868, an address that actually is not in the Zenith LA City planning. It's actually 21150 Dumas, which is very interesting. But here we are, the new 4868 Canoga. Everyone exits there. There is a fire safety road that goes onto Dumas, but that's not actually going to be used. This is what we're proposing. I'm sure you're familiar with that area. So we can go to the next slide. So here's some more, pictures of the proposed development. Just I'm just being, let's keep our voices low. I think they're having audio issues on Zoom, so there's a lot of neighbors who for many reasons can't be here in person, and we just want to make sure that everyone could participate. So if you don't mind just keeping your voices no whispering for a bit, we'll try and move quickly. So anyway, so we can change again. So these slides, these are the proposed development. This is a 5-story apartment building. It looks like maybe there's some mixed use on the bottom. I see some umbrellas or, some kind of cafe. We can go to the next slide. So here are the 3-story single-family homes, which I believe are very close together. You can see there they are. Next slide. Okay, so this is Canoga Ave. This is 4868, where people are pulling it out of the entrance exit. And you can see the sort of pepper trees, the California pepper trees. But next slide, because actually it just shows the architectural details, as it says on the application. So you can go to the next slide. So anyway, I think you get a pretty good idea of what they're proposing. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee originally. This is the kind of thing that I've seen so many developments built in Nashville as a real estate hotbed. But for the most part, Nashville can support that, and it makes sense in the neighborhoods. At Woodland Hills, this doesn't look like anything I've ever seen, not only here, but in Los Angeles in general. I don't really recognize this at all as my home. So we move to the next slide. So I'm going to quickly just go through, AB 2011 and 2243. Everyone else on the board tonight is going to, not on the board, who's speaking tonight is going to dive a little bit deeper. But basically, it's ministerial process and approval. Which means that it is not the typical review where we would all get to have our input, where the city council would review, where we would have a CEQA environmental review, the transportation review. There's so many reviews. They also added 2243, which makes this a 90-day process. That was added on to 2011 to set a timeline. So we will go to the next slide. So we just went through the 2011 checklist, and we just highlighted all of the things that don't seem to comply, that would make it ineligible. So first of all, we have the parcel is located in zones where office, retail, or parking are principally permitted. No, that's not true. All of these are supposed to be yes. So number 3, at least 75% of the perimeter on site adjoins parcels that are developed with urban use. Needs further review. Okay, so I'll give it to them. Needs further review. Next slide, please. Okay, so the project site abuts a commercial corridor defined as a local road with right-of-way 70 to 150 feet. Okay, so if a road is 70 to 150 feet, commercial, got it, could be anything. Okay, so it still needs to be evaluated though. Okay, next, I mentioned this already, that go back, sorry. We have a wonderful assistant, Noelle, who is doing the PowerPoint from the control room, so thank you, Noelle. So the site is not greater than 20 acres. Okay, well actually the golf course is more like 93 acres, and they have created, as they've subdivided this lot, but it's not actually been subdivided officially by the city, so this is all make-believe as well. Okay, the site does not contain dwelling units in the past 10 years. It's none. The property vacant is zoned for housing, no, zoned for agriculture. Okay, next slide. I think they're getting the point. And I hope that, a lot of this, I'm sure is things that some of you have learned on your own. We just want to make sure everyone has access to this information. And everyone does. It's on the city, this is all from the city planning website, see this. So you can look at it yourself. Wetlands. Okay, well actually the golf course does have wetlands. They are challenging the definition of wetlands, but the Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy agrees with us that we have wetlands. And it's also within a very high fire hazard severity zone. This is probably the most important glaring thing that makes absolutely no sense and that Lauren is going to talk a little bit more about. You can go to the next slide. So again, we do not think that this qualifies for fast track under 2011, 2243. And these are the three things that we feel like are the most glaringly obvious. A very high fire severity zone. The existing use of the land is agriculture. It would have to have a zoning change. And it's Canoga Avenue or commercial corridor. So I'm going to hand it over to Lauren Kaufman, who is an architect and neighbor as well.
Next slide. Okay, hello all. This slide, so I'm going to talk about some of those things Elise mentioned more in depth. Our main concern really about the project right now is not how it's designed and how many units. It's to kick it out with a fast track lane that it's in. Then we can have interaction with the developer if the project moves forward. So that's why we're dwelling on that during this presentation. So this is a map of the very high fire hazard severity zone and our traffic neighborhood. The project site is entirely located in this zone. The applicant has included in their application that they will build all structures and provide all infrastructure as required by the building and fire codes. But that is not the concern. The concern is that 12 streets in the Girard tract on both sides of Canoga Avenue feed into and rely on Canoga Avenue as their only outlet in the case of a fire and required evacuation. With 800 cars exiting the proposed project site just south of the intersection of Canoga and Dumas, a bottleneck is almost certain to form. Next slide, please. Those are our streets. As we all know from seeing images of bottleneck conditions at past wildfires such as the Palisades Fire and the Paradise Fire, this is a serious condition that needs thoughtful study and review. For the safety of the existing Girard tract community, this project should not be entitled to a streamlined ministerial approval process, making the project exempt from review under the California Environmental Quality Act CEQA. Inadequate evacuation analysis would be a failure of our local government to analyze the impact of new residents on evacuation times for both the proposed development and existing communities during a wildfire. Identifying the risk is not enough. The plan must demonstrate how mass evacuation can safely occur. The next thing I want to dive into is the AB 2011. The AB 20, you all know, I think, our list of definitions. We're going to test one on those out. AB 2011, known as the Affordable Housing and High Road Jobs Act of 2022, provides the eligibility guidelines for 100% affordable and mixed-income housing projects. AB 2243, which came into law a very short time after AB 2011, provides further clarity and restrictions on AB 2011 and includes changes to the approval timeline outlined in AB 2011. For qualifying projects, AB 2011 offers a streamlined ministerial approval process, exempt from review of the California Environmental Quality Act, as we know, called CEQA, neighborhood input, and other in-depth studies of the project. If the project site is located in a zone where office, retail, and/or parking are principally permitted uses, which is basically a commercial development, And the project site is located along a commercial corridor. So next slide, please. Let's talk about the commercial corridor. California state law defines a commercial corridor as a street which includes sidewalks with a public right-of-way width dimension of at least 70 feet and not wider than 150 feet. It's a roadway supporting commercial activity and benefiting from established infrastructure, such as transportation, traffic lights, pedestrian crossings, access to retail and small businesses. Los Angeles zoning defines a commercial corridor as a major automobile-oriented route with high traffic intended for diverse commercial uses, especially requiring ground floor retail in new developments and offering economic opportunity for local businesses, shopping, restaurants, and other community meeting places in a walkable environment. You can go to the next slide. These commercial corridors are often located near transit hubs to reduce car dependency and are therefore very suitable locations for multi-family housing projects. That is the proposed entrance. That is a commercial corridor by the applicants. That's what the applicant is saying is a commercial corridor. The intention of the streamlined ministerial approval process is to identify suitable locations and provide the incentive of a simpler review process for housing projects qualifying as 100% affordable and or mixed income by locating in a commercial zone along a commercial corridor. These large-scale projects can take advantage of existing infrastructure. This objective can be achieved in a shortened review period without harm to the community. Simple and straightforward. You can advance the slide. This is a commercial corridor as Ventura Boulevard. Okay. The golf course project, 4868 Canoga Avenue, is an abuse of the intention of the AB 2011 streamlined tool process. Number one, Canoga Avenue, though it may meet the width criteria just south of Clements, becomes a two-lane road without sidewalks and only one or two stop signs until it reaches Mulholland. Canoga Boulevard, between Ventura Boulevard and Mulholland, is almost completely bordered by R1 properties. There is no public transportation on Canoga Boulevard or Clements Avenue, and Ventura Boulevard is over a half a mile away as the crow flies. Next slide. We're comparing these two commercial corridors. Number three, the project site is zoned A1, agriculture with permitted uses such as one-family dwellings, parks, playgrounds, community centers, golf courses, agricultural uses. Office, retail, and or parking are not principally permitted uses. Yes, the golf course has parking, but that's an accessory use to the golf course. The same is true of the golf shop and the restaurant. They are small in square footage and serve for 12 members. The applicant for the golf course project is attempting to force a square peg into a round hole. The project is complicated, far-reaching, inappropriate to the site, and very contrary to the fabric of the drawer trap. The community is very concerned that does not support its request for streamlined ministerial review.
Okay, good evening. Next slide, please. I have to tell you, this is the largest captive audience I've ever had. I'm so happy to see so many people here. So I get to practice. So next time I do this, I can do better. All right, next slide. Okay, so my name is Alex Raymond. I live in the area. I am a civil engineer. This is not my area of practice, so I'm here as a neighbor. I grew up in the valley. We actually live near Canoga Ave and Gaona. And if you know where Gaona turns into a private street, or that little street, it's a little peninsula. Like I said, I grew up here. I went to CSUN. I studied engineering there. And I got promoted before my friends who went to SC, so I got since moving into the neighborhood, a lot of new residential development has taken place, most of it north of Ventura Boulevard. But the one thing we haven't seen yet is we haven't seen those people move in, so we're not with them in our community. So in looking at that, as an engineer, I said, let's do a comparison. And what do we compare to? Well, let's look at a community that actually went through all the process of being developed. And somebody thought about how wide the street should be and how big the store should be. So let's start with the stores. Let's start with the shopping. You know, I apologize. My reading glasses and my regular glasses are not doing me justice. So if I get some of the numbers wrong, yell out and correct me. All right, so up the top, Woodland Hills, down at the bottom, Quarter Ranch. I know that's backwards, I know Quarter Ranch is north, but just work with me here. So let's start with Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is traditionally known for terrible parking lots, right? All right, so what I did is, instead of counting the spaces, I said, let's just look at the size of the parking lot, because as you may see, when I park my big truck at Trader Joe's, I sometimes take up 2 spots because I'm parking on the line on both sides. Anyway, 24,500 square feet, that's the parking lot that we have for our Trader Joe's. Now, Porter Ranch does not have a Trader Joe's. Their Trader Joe's is in Chatsworth, but that Chatsworth Trader Joe's, their parking lot is 33,000 square feet, which is 36% more. Let's talk about Ralph's. So our local Ralph's, the parking lot that's dedicated to that store in front of it, 45,450 square feet. Trader Joe Ralph's in Porter Ranch, 114,600 square feet. That's an increase of 151%. You can check my math. Let's talk about Whole Foods, or Whole Paycheck. 26,360 square feet. That's in our neighborhood. Porter Ranch Whole Foods, 61,200 square feet. That's 132% bigger. And you can even see in the pictures, right? I tried to make them somewhat to scale. Just the enormity of the difference between parking. Next slide, please. Let's talk streets and evacuation. I went out and I measured Canoga Ave, and I did not go out, in all honesty, to Porter Ranch, but I did get the measurements from Navigate on. So if they're not exact, you can call me afterwards and tell me what the real numbers are. But they're pretty staggering. So Canoga, in the area where we've all shown where the exit is going to be, is 49 feet of roadway and 70 feet of right-of-way. Right-of-way to me is a term I use all the time, but to those that are not exactly sure what it means, it's the back side of the sidewalk. There's a sidewalk that goes up to the homes, and the other side, in this particular case, would be the fence line. It's the total amount of space. And why is that important? Well, we're going to talk about it. If you're evacuating and everyone is trying to get out, you're going to use every bit of space that you have. So let's move down to Porter Ranch. Mason Avenue is 85 feet of roadway. It's 115 feet of right-of-way. There are 2 lanes in each direction. There's parking on both sides, and there are also 2 sidewalks. That is the master plan high density community. Let's talk about items. 28 feet of roadway, 44 feet of right of way, 1 lane in each direction, sidewalk on one side, parking on both sides. Let's talk about Corbin. 85 feet of roadway, 120 plus feet of right of way, 2 lanes in each direction, sidewalk on both sides, parking also on both sides. Let's talk about the 101 freeway. The 101 freeway at Canoga has 5 lanes of traffic in each direction, and each direction is 65 feet wide. It is maxed out. You can't go any bigger. The 118 freeway also has 5 lanes of traffic in each direction. One of those 5 is actually an HOV lane. But the 118 freeway is 83 feet wide. So what does that mean? There's room for expansion. Somebody thought about this in advance. Imagine in an emergency situation, everyone is trying to get out. We're all trying to go north on Canoga. We're using both lanes of traffic, right? Cars are going north, both sides, and then everyone is trying to get out of this new development. So they're trying to get out of the driveway, and there's a traffic jam. Now people get out of their cars. Forget the car, let's abandon the car. We start walking, sidewalk on one side. Next slide, please. All right, my next slide is talking, this I pulled off of Navigate LA. This is a little further down the road, but I just wanted to bring a little awareness. This is a landslide zone, right? So the golf course is white, and you can kind of see it in the underlay, and the baby blue color, those are all no landslide areas. Now, I don't want to scare anybody, but this is something that really needs review. We were talking about this before the meeting. When you go in and you do a master plan project that they're doing, they're going to do a lot of grading, they're going to do a lot of cutting, they're going to do a lot of vibrating. There's a lot of homes that live up above these landslide zones. That is definitely something that needs to be looked at. Before those homes start to crack up because of the vibration, and before they start to move, the mitigation needs to be a part of the project. Next slide, please. All right, the Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy. I just got this. Where are my other glasses now? So they were kind enough to take a look at the area, and it turns out that the golf course lies within the Santa Monica Mountains zone established in the legislature. So just like us, they just found out about and made aware, and they wrote a very compelling letter to the mayor and to the director of planning requesting more consideration of the proposed project. They will have a meeting this coming Monday, so if you go to their website, you can see it. And there's going to be more to come on this. Next slide, please. Okay, what is this? Some of you know that I actually work for the DWP. Everybody knows. There are no employee discounts, by the way. I feel like for our little house, we pay such high rates, and I'm afraid to complain. Because when I call up and say, yeah, you know, and they're going to be like, Alex, is that you? Anyway, the DWP has a project that we're going to be working on. Water is a big issue in Los Angeles. I work on the water side. This is something we talk about day in, day out. LA is going to grow. There's no, you know, it's just going to happen. And growing is not a bad thing. People want to live here. We want jobs here. This is a great place to live. But the water is going to be an issue. There's less and less of it coming from the Owens Valley, and so we have to make revisions. Now, this is something that's done in other cities. And what this is the water that, our wastewater, basically, is going to be treated, and then it's going to be pumped back up to the north end of the valley. It's going to be treated again, and then it's going to come back and be put into the ground. Now, the San Fernando Valley, I don't know how many people know this, it's a great storage place for groundwater. This is, it's fantastic, and it's been done, and we're actually working on bringing that back online. So that's the plan. Now, what is great about a golf course? This golf course is a sponge. So now we're taking this water that we get from rain, which is great water. By the way, all water is recycled, right? There is no such thing as just, pure water LA. But we're getting this water from rain, and we have this great big sponge right next to us that leads right into the aquifer for the San Fernando Valley. So again, topic we're going to discuss later. All right, thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Octane Gary, and I'm a filmmaker and artist. I've lived here for 30 years. That's basically my whole life. I went to Serenia Elementary School down the street. And I guess I'll say this for the parents in the room. I also went to Stanford University, so it's So as an adult, I was lucky enough to buy a home here, my first home. I've always been very, very proud of this neighborhood. You can see my parents' house from our backyard. It's very charming. We even have little green lamps when we turn on. It's kind of like the Great Gatsby. So, this goes without saying, we are not NIMBYs. And if anyone says that, you show them this, which is the plan from Warner Center. We are very pro-development here in Woodland Hills, and I think a lot of us moved here because we understood that the natural progression was westward, It's manifest destiny, you would say. So, we welcome change in our neighborhood, we want growth, we're invested in it. And for years I've been telling my friends that Woodland Hills is cool, it's destined to be great. And our local government is doing an amazing job of developing the area that's meant to be developed, the kind of great area up north. And I think we're a shining example for the future of the valley. Next slide. So this is, by 2035, nearly 18,000 new units are currently approved to be built in Warner Center with more in the pipeline. And this is monumental progress, obviously. Next slide. Woodland Hills has the highest number of proposed housing in the entire city. This is a map of Los Angeles. If you drive down the aerial, you'll see that the density we're talking about is already here. We're already developing homes. And the neighborhood is growing rapidly. It looks completely different to the neighborhood I know, so we are not anti-change, okay? Woodland Hills is contributing our fair share to the housing crisis in a major way, in a way that's sustainable. To recap, next slide, these are our community values. We support responsible housing. We support affordability and growth. We do not support unsafe, non-qualifying projects. Our priority is to respect the history of Los Angeles, to grow the cultural significance of the valley, and to maintain the character and charm of this neighborhood. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Nick to talk about a very fascinating character, Victor Gerard, from Canoga Ave.
Marguerite, and then my issues good to go all right. Well, thank you all for spending Friday night with us and having some. It's too fun. Instead of learning, so that's great, right? Just show of hands. Anyone's first community meeting? Anyone? Great. Awesome. Also mine. Anyway, so what I'm here to do is just to share some of the history of the design of Woodland Country Club, and to share sort of the influence that had on Southern California golf and also just Los Angeles golf. So if we could move on to the slide. Oh, this is actually a good picture to look at. So this is Gerard surveying the land that we've been talking about today. If we could just move on to the next slide here. This is sort of why Woodland Hills exists. Gerard did this 80-mile bus route for free, where he would take you through the whole city and then he'd just drop you off out here. There was nothing out here. Fake storefronts, fake houses, nothing. Sounds a little familiar. Just a little bit. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Here's William Beck. This is who we're here to talk about. So he's the designer of what's known now as the Woodland Country Club, formerly the Gerard Golf Club. And he is a legend of Southern California golf design. He's one of the designers that formed the golden age of Southern California golf. And you guys probably know, besides this course, a bunch of his other courses. Do we know Los Angeles Country Club? Yeah. Do we know Bel Air Country Club? Do we know Riviera? Oh, we do. Great, that's perfect. He designed them all too. He designed this one as well. These are all in different places. And they should be used. Something that you notice when you go to these courses is that Woodland Hills was his proving ground. He learned a lot about design here. It was one of his earliest courses. He started designing in 1919. He started building this in 1922 and finished in 1925. And he learned from this course. The first tee ball at Woodland Country Club is a tee shot right next to the clubhouse on the downhill fairway. Exact same tee shot at Riviera #1. Exact same. Barrancas, the 8th and 11th hole, the 16th and 17th hole at Woodland Country Club. They do the same at the north coast of Los Angeles Country Club. Fingered bunkers. Now that sounds so weird, but it's just little protrusions into the bunkers, okay? That's something that did not exist until the guy that built this course did it. That exists in almost every golf course you go to now in America. Now, Billy Bell Sr., he was great. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. I've talked about a lot of this. But one thing I wanted to just touch on briefly is he is one of the only golfers or golf designers from this era that still has multiple courses in play on the tour today. He has two, Riviera and Torrey Pines side. The only other one is Donald Ross. And any golf heads in here know who Donald Ross is. He essentially is the father of golf in the North American continent, designed over 400 golf courses. It's an impressive thing. Now, the Bell story doesn't end with Billy Bell Sr. It continues on with his son, Billy Bell Jr. In the 1950s, Billy Bell Jr. and Sr. teamed up, and they continued to build classic courses in our area. First one being Torrey Pines South, and a father-son project. Now, Jr. went on to build Sandpiper, Ojai Valley, Sad Boy, and Monarch. Several, but those are just I think it's really important to just take a moment and realize what we're going to lose here with this course. We're going to lose, a piece of land, sanctuary for animals, a place that keeps us safe from fire, an area that drains water from the mountains down into our valley. But we're also going to lose an incredibly historic piece of golf. Right here. This is Woodland Country Club yesterday. I took those pictures. Well, no, I didn't take the drone shot, that was provided by someone else, but I took the other one. And that was yesterday. You can see here how, with this limited acreage he was dealt, he had to just sort of let the land dictate the course. And he learned from that. You can see in the drone overhead shot on the left there, the barranca I was talking about. running through in between 8 and 11 that you brought to LACC. We can move to the next slide. Here's Mount Gerard, planted on the course. Just up grass hanging. We can move on. Now, I also think it's important, now that we've talked about Billy Bell Senior and his son, let's talk a little bit about this course, right? I mean, it's important to acknowledge that this thing was developed alongside the original Gerard tractor homes, and it's one of just a few elements of that original property that still exists and remains legal. It was opened in 1925. It's been there since then, 100 years, and since then it has been a focal point of our community. It has been a place loved by golfers, community members, wildlife, just everyone, really. And a little history about the club. It stayed this way. It stayed as a golf course because it was an equity club. Which means the members on the club, they want to keep it a golf course. A few years ago that changed. A couple gentlemen bought the club and are now trying to develop it. And so the membership has lost their ability to have any influence, which is why we're all here today and we're all, focusing on this. And I appreciate you all being here. Wanted to give you a brief run. We can move on. Just wanted to give you a couple of great shots of sort of the golf course in the 20s, which is on the right, and then in the 50s, which is on the left. Then we can move on again. All right, I'm going to close out now before I pass it on. So, just a quick update on what we've been doing up here in the panel. We have talked to a few of the local golf organizations, SCGA, CAG. They are both willing to help us and just as dismayed as we are. I don't have anything to share in terms of sort of where we are moving in terms of our conversations with those groups, but I did want to share that update. And thank you all for listening to me drone on about a golf course that I love and a game that I love. And hopefully after hearing this, you too care more about this course and this land and this place that we all share. So thank you.
And raised near Hole 7 on South Tillow Street. My parents continued to own the house. About 9 years later, 9 years ago, my husband and I bought our first home, also on South Tillow Street, 6 doors down from my parents, and our 9-year-old walks back and forth between the two houses, and he knows the names of the neighbors and every single house that he passes by. The neighbors would come home from work, they'd pull their cars into the garage because we used to be able to park in our garages. They'd close that door behind them and they'd never say anything to anybody. But I want us to take a look around and look at this community that we have here today. Most of us were notified about this development just a few days before Thanksgiving. Come Black Friday, we already got 500 signatures on the petition, and then suddenly neighbors hit the street. We start pulling down flyers from trees, we start copying them, we pound paper it, and we hand it out to all the houses to notify you. And next slide, please. 2 weeks ago, we were at a Plum Committee meeting, that's the Planning and Land Use Management Committee meeting. We had approximately 20 neighbors there. Next slide, please. 2 days ago, we went to the neighborhood council meeting. We had approximately 40 neighbors there. And then next slide, let's take a pause actually. Look around 2 days later, we're going to have many people we have here today. What we did in just 2.5 weeks, and this is really important, is we were able to mobilize incredibly quickly. Okay, we're able to mobilize to protect this space. And it's this community right here that we're building that's going to help us fight that development. So let's take a pause. We're in a church after all. Look around, see somebody you don't know, introduce yourself, please. Today, this beautiful community here, we gotta get our communication basics in order. Please take your phone out. Please unlock your phone. Please open the camera and scan this QR code to join our mailing list. If you are already on, I ask you to add neighborhood alert dot 4868@gmail.com to your contacts to make sure that my emails do not go to your spam. All right? Next slide, please. In that form, and you're going to get, okay, we're going to be available later with QR codes. In that form, you'll have a questionnaire about subcommittees. We're breaking up into subcommittees. We can't do all things at all times. We've got a lot of resources here. We've got a lot of skills, information. We're going to break up into subcommittees. If you're interested in the different subcommittees, check the box. They're going to notify you and give you updates. You can share your resources and contacts with them. Okay, next slide, please. I'm going to send out this Google Calendar to you if you're on that mailing list. You're going to follow the directions, Android, iPhone, desktop. It's going to add to your calendar. Then I can immediately notify you of meetings coming up, like the Wednesday Brad Sherman meeting that he decided to grace us with his presence, okay? So you immediately know the address or the Zoom link or what to expect. Carpool with your neighbors. It makes it less intimidating. Next slide, please. Please open up your contacts of your phone and add these phone numbers to speed dial. Bob Blumenfield, 818-774-4330. I need you to call that number. I have the first action item. Call that number, leave a message, and request an in-person meeting next week before the holidays with Bob. Be explicit, please. Okay? Next slide, please. Anybody get this in the mail? Do you recognize this? It was on my counter, and then a week later, I got notified of the development, and I said, Jesse Gabriel, my opinion matters? Does your opinion matter, Jesse? Please, and tell Jesse your opinion. He declined to show up to this meeting. Thank you very much.
All right, Bob and John, thank you guys so much for being here with us today. I'm running into some questions from the community. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to you guys. You can hear me? Okay, yeah. This is great. Wow, I love seeing all of you out here and excited about, not excited, but worked up about real issues that's before us. I'm just as concerned as you are. As many, I know many of you in this group, we've worked on projects together for years. I'm your council member. I've been your council member for 10 years. Before this, I used to work in Santa Monica Conservancy. I'm a big believer in open space. A big part of my career was out there saving open space, something I care deeply about. I'm very concerned here because normally, in the past, when there's been a big project in Woodland Hills, I'm also in Woodland Hills neighborhood, by the way. I've lived in Woodland Hills for over 20 years. Raised my kids here, one's now in college, one's in junior high school. But usually, when there is a big project in Woodland Hills, I'm able to say to you, I've got your back. We're going to figure this out. We're going to have meetings. We're going to, and when developers come to me as a council member, the first thing I say, they always come to me and say, oh, I want to get a zone change for this. And I always say the same thing. I say, have you gone to the neighborhood council? Have we had community meetings? Because I don't know about how other people work, but I don't do that. I don't do that without involving the community. And as we've had many projects, and many of us worked to get the water center plan put together, which took a lot of work. I know a lot of people here did it. That's what we wanted to see the road, so that we could protect the single-family neighborhoods outside of the water center area. But normally when there's a big project, and there have been many, and some of you, we've been on opposite sides, and we've worked together, but we've always been able to find a balance. We've always worked through the process. I am very worried about this project because the tools that I have as your council member have been taken away. Normally, there's council discretion, and you're able to add all sorts of requirements. It goes through the CEQA process, it goes through the environmental review, it goes through all of these processes. The state law that was so just to back up a second, and these developers they came and they talked to me years ago, back in 2020. I know they talked to you, John. They talked to the neighborhood council, and that's exactly, they wanted to create density and they wanted to have a zone change and different variances. And I told them what I always tell people. I said, that's great. I don't do that. You need to go through the community and you need to have a process. We're going to have to, goes through the CEQA, goes through all. And they come back and forth a few times, but then it's kind of a radio silence moment. So, okay, I guess this is off the radio, off the charts. And then we find out on October 10th of just a couple of weeks ago, just a month and a half ago, the governor signed 45 different bills dealing with housing. SB 79, all these different housing bills. And it was a big move by the legislature, and a lot of it's really good in terms of promoting housing. Some of it I have some issues with, but tucked away in there were a couple of bills that I don't think any of us had any clue about, which remove the discretion on this project in particular, but it's sort of a range of projects, but it fits this project like we want. And specifically, you guys did a great job of going through what those bills were. But what the state bill does, it basically says that, AB 2011 talks about density on commercial corridors, which conceptually, that's something I agree with. I think we should have density on our commercial corridors. But then one of those follow-up bills that was also signed redefines commercial corridors, not based on use, but based on width. And the width it defines it as conveniently fits this project, because it's just a little bit smaller than the width of Canoga Ave. So that's okay. So now all of a sudden this is being defined as a commercial corridor. Then there's some other things in here. Like one of the protections that we've had here is we have the Mulholland Scenic Plan and the Gerard specific plan. They have been protecting us for 25 years. When I worked for the Conservancy, we relied on those plans for many different years. The state law says that plans that are over 25 years old don't apply. And these plans are slightly older than 25 years. So then that tool has been taken from us. And it basically says that the city has to, we don't get the discretion, has to acknowledge that it's been, the project under the housing accountability, acknowledge that the project has been received within 30 days, and then have a decision within 90 days. But the decision that we make is not the usual process where we have a discretionary process where I get to vote on it, or then the planning commission gets to vote on it, more importantly, the community. Usually the way a project works is neighbor council votes on it, that goes to the planning commission that votes on it. By the time it gets to the council member on the plum committee, it's been vetted multiple times by the community. All of that is taken away. So we don't get to do it. And someone showed me, I was kind of shocked to see that there was like some billboard saying, call my office, it's going to be that I'm going to approve this project on Christmas or something, some nonsense like that. I'm like, I wish I had the power to approve or disapprove this project on Christmas. That would be great. I wish that were true. I wish calling my office would make a difference. It doesn't, in the sense that I don't have that power anymore. The state law has taken away that power. So if this moves forward under these state laws, it never comes to a vote before the city council. And it never comes to a vote where I have sort of control. And when I say I, that's me, because I am your representative, and I've always taken that role very seriously. When there are projects that come before the council,
It's not me as Bob Blumenfield, it's me as a representative of you. And it's after you have heard a project in neighborhood council and underneath the laws and commissions and done all those things. And that's how so many of us know each other, because we have looked at different projects over the years. And there's been a lot of development in Woodland Hills. Not everybody likes all the development that's happening, but there's always been a process, and there's been a vote. So, you know, if someone's saying, oh, call my office all you want. I can't, calling my office doesn't give me the power to vote one way or the other. I don't get that vote. If the state law goes, you know, the state law has gone. I ultimately think this is probably going to be something that's up to the courts. Because, I don't know, but because whatever the city has to ministerially make a decision, they have all the material. And you guys made some big cases for why it may not apply. But I'm concerned that the way it was written sort of fit like the law.
What about a fair fire?
Great question. If you look deeply into the way the language is. And by the way, I'm not the expert. So what I did was, as soon as I got out of this, I put a motion. There's a copy of it on the table. There's a copy on my website, along with a letter. I hope you all get the letter that I wrote. Yeah. Okay, good. Because I really tried to lay it out clearly. On questions like the high fire severity zone, I've talked to some people who say, no, it's going to apply because it has to be a vacant property, and this is not technically vacant because there's a building that I don't want to break. I want your interpretation to be right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not. I don't get to make that interpretation. So what I did was, I did immediately upon finding out, I did a motion, and there's a copy of it there and a copy on my website, saying to the city attorney and the planning department, get on this right away. I need an analysis and interpretation of if this applies, how it applies, and what those things are, and to lay it all out. Because I'm not the expert. I would love for your definition of how it doesn't apply to the high fire severity zone to be true. The problem is that what I've been told by different experts that they think that the high fire severity zone issue may not apply here because the way it was written, if there's a structure already, it has to be a vacant structure. So these are kind of wonky details that I'm going to be looking into, but I'm not qualified. That's why I did the motion to urge the city attorney and the planning department to give us that analysis so we can really go through that step by step. And ultimately, the courts that, you know, one way or the other, because if the city is forced ministerially, if they approve the project, which again would not be with my blessing, would not be with my vote, if that happens, and I'm sure John and the who will sue it, and other people will, and if the city doesn't do it, then the developer will sue. And so one way or the other, it probably ends up in the courts. It's kind of like do you remember the ED1 issue that came up? The executive director one, there was an issue that came up in our area where the mayor's executive directive allows for multifamily homes to be built ministerially in certain areas. And the way it was written at first, people said it could apply to single-family neighborhoods. And I was like, no, get out. And so I asked the mayor, and she immediately clarified, said, no, I didn't mean that. And she clarified. Well, a couple of developers snuck in their applications prior to that clarification. And so then it came to the city council, and we were told, well, we have to approve it. I said, no, this is going to go to court. And I got the council to disapprove it. But then it went to court. And the court said that, well, they have a vested right because they applied for it before. And those ED1 projects in single-family neighborhoods are going up. So we have two of those in our area, despite the fact that I put the style on. But that's nothing compared to this. And the other thing is, I think it's important for people to realize about this, not just for us in this neighborhood, but we have to realize this isn't just about us. This law is going to apply across the city. And I think that this may have a bigger impact than 379. But they were signed at the same time on October 10th. But I think SB 79 got all the list here, everybody's talking about that. And none of us realized about this. It's only now that it's sort of coming to light and what that actually means. So we're going to have to sort of play it out. As I said, I'm trying to do everything I can. And what that to me means is, A, being very clear with all of you, and trying to make it clear what I can do, what I can't do. B, getting that motion to get a clear explanation and analysis from the city attorney and planning department. And then, you know, C, working with all of you on whatever those next steps are. How do we get rid of that? And I know John wanted to say, well, the law, we never get it considered. Even if we got rid of the law tomorrow, like just the same problem that we had with the 81 example was, I mean, I don't know this for sure, but what we had with 81 was that the developer had applied, they got what's called a vested right. And they got that right under the way that the court was interpreting the original law. So in this case, my concern, you know, there's a lot of legal questions here, and I'm actually not.
Huntington Beach is fighting it. It just went through the state courts, and they're going to appeal it to the Supreme Court. But they've been pressuring Huntington Beach to, under this law, they're trying to force them to do some projects the city does not want to do. And that's also true of a lot of other cities around the state. A lot of the smaller cities are against this, and they're imposing situations like this that the city doesn't want. So Huntington Beach is fighting it, and in the next couple of weeks, they'll determine if they want to take it to the Supreme Court. But this is really a political issue, and for your situation to deal with the state, because that is really the spark of what's creating all this problem. What can you do with the state legislature to get them to stop doing this to the cities and to the communities?
It's a great point. As a council member, you know, were I a state senator, I'd have a lot more ability to make that change. I have their vote.
Oh, we can't make this.
We all can. I certainly can do it, but don't underestimate the power of a group like this. You know, and by the way, I know John was going to say, I don't want to.
Just let us give us some tools, like what do we do? We're calling everyone, no one's even responding. We want to do something, and I also confused with why did this happen? And it's been applied to our neighborhood. Have you ever not heard?
You know what? You may have to show up at her office.
I did.
I'm just take a look behind you. Take a look behind you. Not just you. If all of you show up at one of our offices and say we need to be able to talk about that, we might be doing some response on it. Jesse has been ignoring us for a long time now. One responsive person we have in our neighborhood is really Bob. He's very responsive to things that are going on. Let me start giving a bit of a background of where we can go with this. I'm Johnny Walker, president of the since 1985, and we're not going to tell you to build a major house, but rather watch the development that goes on and the Woodland Hills area to make sure that it's going to be appropriate. We're not adverse to suing people if we have to. We sued Westfield over the property of the village. That's what Costco looks halfway decent as well. The gas station doesn't really look like a gas station because we went through a number of years of litigation off of that. Very expensive, by the way, litigation on things. We don't want to get into that unless we absolutely have to. By the way, Merry Christmas to everybody, and Happy Hanukkah. How many of these people drop this on us just after Thanksgiving? I'm out of town with relatives back east, and all of a sudden I know I'm getting lit up here with stuff that's going on. And by the way, congratulations on you. You've done a tremendous job. You are watching local government. You are the government. You are the power. That's what counts. When we see about this organization going on with the people that are here, understand you have the power to be able to do stuff and make those changes that are necessary to be done. We had a word that came to us probably 20 years ago from the grapevine that Sacramento wanted to destroy single-family residents throughout the entire state, across the board. How dare we be people on such a big piece of property when all these other people need to have it? What are you going to instead? Apartments without any kind of ownership in them, without any kind of people that want to turn around and say, this is my home, I'm going to protect it, I'm going to make it the best thing I possibly can, rather than just people who are being transitory sitting in apartments. That's what they're trying to do here, although some of them are going to be housing units. But here's what it is. Please understand this. As the Woodland Hills Homeowners Organization, we are not against development. We want good, responsible development. Not stupid development in stupid places. This is a stupid place to put this stupid development. freeway, or by really industrial areas, or by commercial areas. They got a little slip in, if you will, trying to find Canoga as a commercial corridor. Canoga south of the boulevard is not commercial any place on that area. Forget about it. So to try to stretch that imagination, if you will, into that, to allow this project to go forward is just absolutely flat out false. It's not what the legislature intended. Now, what's going on behind the scenes to try to get this thing stopped? Because all of you, listen, to hear all this stuff about reading through all the statutes and what have you, and if I may, just one point on that. Go back and read the actual statutes themselves. You go back to the government code and start reading through that, you'll see what it is. You go online, you find them online. Basically starts out at, ready for the numbers here? Be quick on it, it's easy to remember. 65912 dot so-and-so. 65912. 65912. Go read the actual code as opposed to just reading the 2011, for example. Because now you're going to read the actual code and what they changed or things they put in and how it's modified at that point. So get informed of that, we're doing a great job of that, what that continue. Behind the scenes, what's going on is this. The coalitions that being built are phenomenal. People are talking to people who do golfing, talking to the Conservancy, talking to the council's office, and others as well. Talking to those who might be able to put up some money to be able to do things. Who knows, might be able to find some way to turn this back into maybe a public golf course or something different. We'll see. We'll see. This is the bottom line. By the time the application is put in, they have 90 days to go for the city planning department to make a determination whether or not it meets the statutory requirements or it does not. 90 days from that point. That's the drop dead tape for them. They like to stamp at any time that they want to. The planning department, the head of the planning department, has got it on his desk presently. There is a need for us to get a hold of the city attorney, to get a hold of him, and to get a hold of him too, to say, listen, sit on this for a bit of time. Why? Well, it's got great motions coming up for it to be looked at. And I think when they really look at it in detail, it doesn't apply in this situation. And I do agree, by the way, that the fire area is excluding this particular one. I don't agree with Bob on that one, and I am aware of that. I want that to be true too. Okay. Yeah, I understand, but I am aware and agree to that stuff. This stuff is really thick to go through and read it. I have other things to do besides reading this stuff, as you can well imagine, and these days, as you do too. But the bottom line is, I don't believe it applies in this particular situation. If we get a slowdown on any approval at this point, get the city attorney to actually give an opinion on it at this particular stage, then we have something to seriously work with at that point. But if it turns out the city attorney is wrong, we file a lawsuit right quickly on an injunction just to stop them from approving it. That's not that big of a deal to go to an injunction. The answer is what we really want to do is to find a win-win. If we can do that, a win for us, the community, and a win for the developer people too. And that can happen. I know we've done with them before COVID ages ago. They brought the plan to us to what they wanted to do. At that point, there's going to be some housing around, a non-rural golf course, we'll do some other things around. And I said, listen, we can't really do that. It's not going to really work. Nobody wants a non-rural golf course, and I could never use it. And besides, it's going to cost you a lot of money, a lot of time to go through it. The law changed, so now slipped it in without anybody knowing about it, trying to get a vested right at this point in time. I don't believe the rights are vested at this point, so the planning department actually turns around and stamps it. But nonetheless, we're going to look to see if we can find some way to make a win in this particular process too. We said, listen, the water, they're paying something like $50,000 a month just to water that location out there, because they pay city water fees on that. Well, let's find out what the problem is. If that's the problem, that's what keeps you from functioning. Find some kind of deal to work out. We'll get some gray water brought in, or who knows what. If it's membership issue, then we turn it into maybe a private golf course or 3 days out of the week and rest make it a public golf. We have to find out what the problem is. I think we need to know that you are the source of what's going to happen. And it's important for the following that we all have one voice.
So can you please say and spell your first and last name for me?
It's Bob Blumenfield, Blumenfield.
Okay. So
I'll give you my card so you can get it right.
So what do you plan to do to stop kind of the fast track process, and who would be responsible for if people were to get trapped in an evacuation during a wildfire?
So the first question is,
evaluating whether this qualifies under the state law. And that right now, I put a motion in on Wednesday to get the city attorney and the planning department to do a formal analysis to tell us if there is any room there, because the project has been submitted as if it qualifies under the state law, the new state law that was just signed into law on October 10th. So that's step one, is does it indeed qualify? If it qualifies, then there's no discretion by the city council and by the community. It is done ministerially, meaning that the only thing the city is permitted under state law to do is check the box. Does it do this or this or this? What was your second question was about?
It's, who would be responsible if people were to get trapped during an evacuation of a wildfire?
Well, like everywhere, I mean, we have incredible fire department here and police department, and like anywhere else, if somebody is trapped, our fire department is determined to get there and get to them, whatever that takes. And we have just incredible heroes who have done so in remarkable circumstances. But I think you're raising an underlying issue, which is, this is a high fire severity zone, and that's one of the concerns that we would normally address through the CEQA process and through the city process. Depending on how you interpret this state law, if we may not be, the high fire severity zone restrictions may not apply.
Cool, and then my other question is, what can residents do to help stop this development?
Well, at the moment, the first step is to see whether or not it qualifies under the state law. If it does qualify, there's not a lot we can do. We can certainly contact our state reps. I don't know if most people in the legislature really knew the implications of this law. There were 45 housing bills signed on October 10th. Incredible details, lots of information. Tucked away in one of them was a redefinition of what a commercial corridor is. Now, the legislature can go back and try to redefine that through cleanup legislation. That's done often. My hope is that could be done. But then there's a question, then there's a question, if that is done, whether or not it would apply just prospectively or whether it could apply retroactively. And that's a legal question I don't know the answer to, depending on how it's written and depending on what the law is, and whether there's a vesting right that was created.
Yours.
Thank you. Councilman Bob Blumenfield, given the state laws that you mentioned, what specific authority does your office or the city still have?
I couldn't hear you. What?
Sorry. Oh, given the state laws that you mentioned,
yeah.
what specific authority or, does your office or the city still have?
Well, if we're waiting for the full analysis from the city attorney and the planning commission, but if this law applies the way it seems to apply, then we have no discretion whatsoever.
Okay.
Meaning, it's never going to come to a vote. I can't stop it in that sense. Is if I don't have, it doesn't come under city's discretionary power, or we don't get to hold hearings or go through the CEQA review or all the rest. And it's not just about me as a council person or as a person. It's about the communities I represent.
Okay. There's no any public hearings or any tools that residents?
Not there. The required hearings. My hope, even if the state law applies, I would appeal to the developers to hold community hearings and to work with the community. And I hope and I'm confident that they would do that to some extent. The issue is it's very different when you hold hearings after you have, when the council has leverage and the people have leverage or they don't. We'd be in a very different situation. But, there's going to be issues that come up even if this project is approved. There's still issues with regard to fire and safety and sort of how things get, move here or there. But the fundamental question of approving the number of units and that kind of thing, that's what the state law is addressing.
Yes, sir. There's some, concerns about the credibility of this developer. I heard, there's some.
I can't speak to that. I don't
Okay.
know anything about that.
That's okay. Are you concerned about the environmental impact, like the fires?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a high fire severity zone. We're talking about a tremendous amount of density in a very low dense area. You know, that is, you know, I mean, it's, you could hit a golf ball from there into the maybe I couldn't, but maybe a really good golfer could, from there into the Palisades where it burned. I mean, it's very close. The fire line went all the way up to Mulholland, and this basically abuts that. So this is a real concern. We want to make sure if anything is built there, it's built in a way that is safe for the community. I mean, that's paramount. That's what's most important.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Anything I missed you left out?
I don't think so. I think you got it. All right.
Appreciate it.